Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. From South Wales, Australia to Alberta, Canada, from Seattle, Washington to Almonte Springs, Florida, from Queens, New York to Long Beach, California, this is Daily Dose Radio, heard around the world. I appreciate all my listeners here in America and in the yonder portions of the world. They're not yonder to you if you live there, but they're yonder to me from here in Southwest Ohio. So glad to have you joining us here on Daily Dose Radio. And today we're going to be looking at Psalm 69. Actually, we're going to do Psalm 69 this week and next, so it's going to be another two-parter. And we're going to be looking here at Psalm 69 today, this week, just through verse 18. So 2 parts to this psalm. I like to call this psalm a pastor's psalm or a pastor's prayer because there is so much material for pastors to preach from in this psalm as well as to pray from in this psalm. It's a good prayer. It's a good prayer for all of us to take a real close look at and to consider some of the things that David says in this prayer. He is praying. This is a prayer of his. And we have an introduction, and the introduction is of the choir master upon Shoshanim, and this is of David. So it's upon Shoshanim, that is maybe the lily upon the lilies, or we just don't know. And we don't even know what the lilies might mean. It could be a percussion instrument, could be a wind instrument, could be anything. Could be a tune name. So this is upon the lilies, or whatever that might mean. Instrument, tune name, some choral arrangement. It's of the choir master, and it's of David. Now we're going to do kind of big bites this week, 4 verses for the majority of the week. So today 1 through 4. And as I said, this is a pastor's prayer, and I hope that you'll keep that in mind as we go through here. And we begin here in verse 1 today. Save me, O God, from the waters, for the waters are come into my soul. I sink in deep mire where there is no standing. I come into deep waters where the floods overflow me. I am weary of my crying. My throat is dried. My eyes fail while I wait for God. They that hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of mine head. They that would destroy me, being my enemies wrongfully, are mighty. Then I restored that which I took away. So let's look now at these 4 verses. David begins with, Save me, O God. This prayer of his is very personal. And you're going to see the first person all through this particular psalm. So he begins with save me. In verse 16, he says, hear me. In verse 5, he says, oh, you know my foolishness. So you hear this over and over again. In verse 13, but as for me, my prayer is unto thee. So the first person dominates this. And this is just like as if we were sitting in his prayer closet with him, listening to him pray. Save me, O God, for the waters are come into my soul. And then he begins to describe what that's like there in verses 2 and 3. I sink in deep mire. There's no standing. I'm in deep waters. The floods overflow me. I'm weary of crying. My throat is dried. My eyes fail while I wait for my God. So you see the despair he's in. This, I've compared this to what John Bunyan wrote in his book Pilgrim's Progress. In chapter 2 of that book, he talks about the slough of despond, which is a muddy, murky, messy, swampy thing that he and his companion get stuck in. And so they get stuck in the slough of despond, and it's well before he gets to the wicket gate and passes through. And in the slough of despond, he realizes his inability to go any further. And it's the slough of despond. It's in the slough of despond that his companion departs from him, goes back home. The pilgrim is determined to head on and he finally gets some help there to get out of the sloth. And I think this is very much like that. He's sinking in deep mire. I think all of us have experienced this very thing. We've experienced a sloth of despond when we come to the cross, because we realize suddenly how very much we are stained with the mud of this world, and how unable, how incapable we are of doing anything for ourselves. And so we cry out. We cry out to God. Some give up and turn back, but those who are born again have been through that sloth and realize that there's only one hope, there's only one help, and that is in Christ Jesus. All right, so tomorrow we'll pick up in verse 5 and do 5 through 8. I hope you'll join me then here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.